very much. That's a good one, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Oh, very much. I wrote that.
Hello.
Hello.
It's the only thing I ever wrote in my life.
My name's Maurice. I'm an alcoholic.
I'm Maurice.
It's been 30 days since my last impression. Voice since.
My name is Sandy. I'm a hurricane. I want you to meet my enabler, warm water.
Well, if I sit here, then you guys can't see us.
Yeah, what are you doing down there?
It's sort of weird. This is a strange thing.
So what do you want to talk about?
I don't know.
We should talk about somebody we know and make fun
We need a moderator, except I don't know a damn thing about moderation. As you can tell by looking at me. Especially when it comes to pie.
So what did you expect when you came in here? What did you think we were going to do?
Answer questions. Should we go straight into Q&A, or should we talk about ourselves a lot? A lot.
It depends on what you want to know. I mean, we could go around the room.
What are you working on now?
Oh.
My self-esteem. Now that Futurama's been canceled, it's like, oh God.
Why do you think I'm wearing black? I'm mourning the death of my career. What are we going to do?
I'll tell you, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do the 7D, a new show from Disney.
That's what's coming
That
out.
is being executive produced by Tom Ruger, who was the brains behind Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain.
Woo!
Writers from that same show. We got Sherry Stoner and Deanna Oliver and Paul Rudd, and we got everybody with Peter Hastings because he's busy running Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But basically, the whole team from Animaniacs is on this new show, the 7D, which is, sort of it's subversively. Yeah, it's for little kids, but there's a lot of subversive adult humor. Very much like Animaniacs. It's a retelling of the Seven Dwarfs.
Yeah.
Right?
And you play Grumpy?
I'm Grumpy, and you're Bashful.
Bashful.
Oh, girls, you're going to fall in love with Bashful.
Well,
Tell us who you're playing.
what's that?
Tell us who you're playing. You're bashful, but who are you playing?
No, Bashful, I asked him, what the hell are they thinking? Bashful, he doesn't say anything.
Right.
He hides and peeks out from stuff and blushes, and I said, I got to do something with this. So I took him and threw him in a ball, like an action painting, like Jackson Pollock,
Right.
reconstructed him. So now he has a side that none of us have ever seen before. So that was my ticket to be, in the playground.
Yeah. No, it's a great character, and I'm playing Grumpy. It's sort of like I took George Costanza from Seinfeld and Danny DeVito, Louis from Taxi, and my best friend Kenny Lombino, who you don't know. Threw them all in a Cuisinart, and out came this character, Grumpy. Just hates everything and everybody, especially Happy. Will you stop singing Happy? And Happy is Kevin Michael Richardson. Oh, he's just so happy all the time.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be.
We're working with all our friends.
Yeah.
Which is always a joy.
Yeah, plus a couple of new guys.
Plus some new guys.
Stephen. What's Stephen?
And Scott.
Stephen and Scott. Oh, Scott. Well, Scotty Mendel's been around. He's been Robin on Teen Titans and everything. But I'd never met Stephen before. This is his.
I never met him either. And
he's sleepy. He's hilarious.
The
So you're gonna love this
has
stuff.
got something really cool going on. But you touched on something right there with the amalgams of characters.
The blender theory.
The blender theory
Right.
is like, how many people, I know there's probably somebody here that wants to check out going into voiceover, voice acting, yeah, there they are. And we talk about this stuff, like where do you get characters from? Were they your friends or your uncle, or was it a teacher? And it's a lot of that stuff when you're looking for an original character. One of the easiest ways to do it is grab somebody from showbiz periphery, like a second banana from an old movie, and combine his voice with the energy of someone else that was in the movies, and you can slow it down or speed it up, but it sets you free in a different direction. Like you're not really mimicking anybody in particular.
Yeah, there's tremendous value in non-perfect impressions. The ones that are absolutely bang on, I generally find that when I'm being cast, if I do a perfect impression, so they go, well, we're not really looking for impressions.
We'll get the guy who does that.
Yeah, we'll get him.
That
If
guy.
we wanted Peter Falk, we'd get Peter Falk. Peter Falk might be.
Bother you.
Yeah,
I'm
he
sorry.
might be my best. He might be my best
I'm
voice.
sorry to bother you.
Ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you. Because I actually screw up my eye with this. My eyesight is shit now. For the rest of my life, because I do this.
But anyway, they'll say, no, that's too, we'll get it, your fault, we want your fault. But if you, and then I tell them to Falk off. So, just kidding, I'm always grateful for the audition. Whatever you do, folks who want to get into voiceover, always be happy to be there, even if you've had a bad day. Grateful for the chance to read for it. Try to bring your very best game to it to make their day better. Don't worry about whether you get the job. Worry about whether you're making the casting director's day better, and then carry on and go have lunch.
Yeah.
Always bring it to benefit others and to be of service. That's my little trick. Gets me out of my head and gets me out of the mind effing that I can do. That my ego can do to me. So that's like the first thing I tell if I'm teaching a voiceover class. Never mind technique, never mind how. Work on the attitude is the most important thing. So, having gotten that out of the way, we'll go back to this idea that you have about, and something that I've done too. I call it the bad transporter.
Bad transporter?
Yeah, when Kirk went through the transporter with
when he wound up
his
outside
other
the
self.
shed.
Yeah, No, when he melded into two people, or he split into two people, and then they had to put
I
good
heard
Kirk
there was
and bad
two
Kirk
sides
back
to
in,
this, yeah.
and then he had to come back as the full Captain Kirk. I do that with, like, as I said, Danny DeVito, George Costanza, and Kenny Lombino. The beauty of it, and you touched on that, was use somebody from your life, because then you get great points for originality. But you're really just ripping off your friend who's not in show business.
But you call them up to tell them how well you're doing.
Yeah, hey, listen, if you were in show business right now, the residual check that I just opened, you'd crap. But, so
You know how many times I've talked to somebody on the phone and it's like, I said, yeah, all that junk I did that used to get me smacked around and thrown out of school and all that, I made a living with it. But it was the rewards of misspent youth. Because, it turned around that we were actually preparing ourselves for a real future. Reality of it is that everything we were prepared for in grade school and junior high and high school will have no practical application in 2013.
I don't know if that's true.
It is true.
I use some of that.
Don't undermine me.
I use a little bit of algebra. I'll tell you where I use it.
Trying to upend me.
I use a little bit of algebra for recipes.
Really?
And that's it.
Oh,
Other than that,
thank you. You just verified it.
Exactly. But other than that, you know what the key? I mean, for me, and my teachers, the hip teachers, got this. I was a terrible student, but they all encouraged me and said, "This is what you do well, so go do that." I was the variety night guy, and I was the morning announcements guy. I did the morning announcements instead of the vice principal. I did all the impressions and all that stuff at my high school. And a couple of my teachers encouraged me and said, "Well, this is what you do, so go do that." The trick in life is find out what you love and go do it. And do it to the very best of your ability. Some of us just aren't going to fit in a box. I have a feeling a major proportion of the folks that come to this thing, like us, we don't fit in any particular box. We have our loves, we have our passions. So go do what you do well. And if it's voiceover, great. If it's chefing, great. If it's whatever it might be, math, sciences, whatever it might be, just do what you do it well, and do it for others. And that's the thing, just go and do what you do to be of service. So I think we've pontificated a bit, but does anybody have any questions? Because I think this is supposed to be, yes, sir.
I was wondering if you could do us the pleasure of doing a mock interview as two of your favorite characters. Like one being the boss, one being the person who's interviewing.
Improv.
Yeah.
That's not a question. That's a command performance.
That's a thought. That's not an idea.
Maybe later on. Let's warm up a little bit. But I mean, right now I just want to answer questions. Yes, sir.
How did you get started? Because it's such an obscure thing, to get in voice acting.
I wake up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, and I get started. Okay. How did I get started? Well, I started by failing at stand-up comedy. I wouldn't say I failed, but I was on the stand-up comedy path It was not. When I first got to LA, I thought, let me try voiceovers. And I went to SBV, Sutton Barnstable area, and I was with them already for on-camera commercials. And I was, a skinny kid, and I went up for like, the Arrowhead guy with the bottle of water on his shoulder and things like that. And I went to Dick Park and I said, could I get a meeting with Rita Venari to do voiceover? And he said, it's a closed community, kid. It's already taken care of, everybody's already in it,
By the way,
Tough
that's
thing
what
to bring.
everyone says when you're looking.
Yeah, you'll hear that no matter where you go.
No matter what you
go
want
to
to do.
Ed's agency, he'll tell you, voiceover's a closed community. You just have to, push in against it, and eventually. But with my case, I was like, oh, okay. And I went off and did stand-up comedy, and there was a voiceover agent from the William Morris agency in the
You called?
audience, Municipal.
Yeah, I'm right next to Nate.
Who's still Alec Baldwin's voiceover. And she came up to me and said, with all those impressions you do in your act, you could do voiceover. And I was like, well, I was told that I can't get into that. It's closed to me. She said, don't worry, I'll send you out on auditions. So while I was doing my stand-up at the Comedy Store and touring with Rodney Dangerfield, I was going into her booth and reading for things for a year before I got anything. I didn't get a damn thing for a year, and then I got a Southwest Airlines commercial with, who's that? What's the name of the actor? I feel like that guy in the joke. You know that joke about the... Okay.
There's all this post-production going on in his head right now. And he thinks
my memory is
we
going.
can see his mind.
Yeah,
and
my memory is going. I feel like that there's a guy, there's a joke about two elderly Jewish couples who's just come from dinner, and the two men are in the front seat, and he's going, that was some steak. That was a fantastic steak. You don't know what you're talking about. They got a much better steak in a much better restaurant last week. What are you talking about? What could be a better steak? He goes, what's the name of the place? And the other guy goes, I'll tell you the name of the place. The name of the place was, what's the name of that flower that we give at Valentine's Day? It's red, it's velvety, it's on a stem. What do you call that? He goes, you mean a rose? He goes, that's right. Rose, what's the name of the steak?
Those are Yiddishisms.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the actor from Pretty Woman, who was the helpful maitre d', the Hispanic actor, balding, goatee, very gentlemanly. Anyway, I did not. Thank you. Okay, great. And everybody here apparently has the same trouble remembering Rose's name. So anyway, that actor and I did a Southwest commercial, and that went into one episode of Wolf Rock TV, which Wolfman Jack did, and an episode of The Littles, and then all of a sudden I auditioned and got Chief for the second season of Inspector Gadget, and then off that I auditioned for Egon on Ghostbusters, 160 plus episodes, and it just kept going ever since. But it just sort of zen. It was sort of weird, So to say that's how I got started, and I got commercials and that sort of thing. But that's right. Oh, that's right. And then poor Paul Frees died, and I stepped into Toucan Sam in 1987. And I've been doing it ever since. It's the longest job I've ever had.
Yeah.
Since 1987 now, I've been following my nose to residual checks.
I used to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Honey Nut Cheerios B.
Yes, I know. We had competing cereals. So Billy West is here with us, ladies and gentlemen. And Billy, how did you get started?
How did I get started? I was a freak. I was just a little freak running around my house, Touretting out voices and doing noises and everything. And everybody would be like, can you not do that? It was not far from right here, as a matter of fact, where all that happened.
You were born and raised here, right?
Yes, I was. And I'm glad to be in Detroit. Where is it? What happened to Detroit? It's not around anymore.
It went bankrupt.
Well, you bankrupt the city. Somebody will come along and fix it. But years ago, everyone would say, stop doing that. You're bothering everybody. I go to play a piano and they slam the lid. So I was bursting to express myself, but I had no idea that it would lead to anything substantial. I just was like crazy, like a kid. And I used to watch television shows, and I would look at the show, I'd hear 20 voices, and then in the credits, when I was old enough to read, I would see 2 names. I'd be like, what? And I wanted to know who these crazy people were. I knew they were full-grown adults. I wasn't stupid.
I'm guessing one of them was Mel Blanc, at least one.
One of them was Mel Blanc.
Right.
Yeah, I was just fascinated with his voices, and he wasn't he wasn't just a collection of witty little clever voices. He was a damn good actor.
Yes.
He was one of the greatest actors ever.
Well, he learned at the feet of Jack Benny, for crying out. Or they didn't learn at the feet. He was already good enough to be on the Jack Benny show.
Yes.
But what's like playing tennis with somebody better than you, your game comes up. Benny had the best timing in all of show business.
Yeah, this was old radio.
Yeah, old radio, Jack Benny. Google it. And
Yeah, but that's all we have to say.
and Mel Blanc, you know, had to be as good as or close to as good as Jack Benny in his comedic timing in order to be in sketches with Jack Benny. So he brought that into the cartoon.
But I had to listen to decades of Bugs Bunny, and it was funny because we did this movie Space Jam.
And I got to work with Michael Jordan, Doc. The closest thing to a religious figure that we have.
What do you think?
That's a great Bugs Bunny.
Did I make it?
Did you pass the audition? I didn't pass the audition.
And I did Elmer Fudd for that, but Mel Blanc didn't do that voice.
No, that was Arthur Q. Bryan.
It would be just like, you know, that's what he really was like, I guess. And he didn't have a lisp. He was just, that was his comic bit. And he'd say, you know, shh,
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
And it was like, I said, this is the greatest character ever. He might be related to Mr. Magoo. They might have been brothers.
Nah.
And, but no, he was like this brain-dead hunter with a flap ear, you know, he's got a 30-06, and he's like a 6-year-old, you know, it's like,
I'm hunting rabbits.
you know, come out wherever you are. And
That's
Benny
flawless.
goes,
That is a flawless Elmer Fudd. You know, as tough as Bugs is to do, Elmer is the subtler character and tougher to do, and that was perfect.
oh, he goes,
Come on, give it up to Billy West. The Geico commercial last year with Elmer Fudd. That was Billy.
oh, it was like it looked like a real Warner Brothers cartoon, I mean, from the
Perfect.
50s or
They
the
did it
40s.
brilliant.
And he came out, he said, shh,
Be very, very quiet. I'm hunting rabbits.
and they go, Elmer, he's like, and they go, that's rabbits,
Rabbits.
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 And they kept going back and forth, and Elmer gets frustrated and walks off the set. He says,
This director is starting to rub me the wrong way.
and they loved it. You know, that's like sometimes, what did Mackle call it? Improvisation. You know, where the copywriter only gives you so much, and then it's like up to us to put a button on something, and they'll go, perfect, that's perfect. We don't get paid for it. But,
No, right.
but I mean, you want to make the thing go big, and it's good to play it.
So wait, this director is rubbing me the wrong way was yours?
Yes.
That's brilliant. Just like the copywriter said when he read his. That's brilliant. I thought that was like built into the script. That seemed like such the most organic, natural ending to that script.
Because that's how we work.
Wow.
You know, it's just like you can't force funny and you can't co-opt it. It just kind of has to come out and fit everything, and no matter how crazy it is, it depends on your sub.
You know, I do that. I have to say that. When I say the 2013 Lexus GS, there's no going back. That's mine. I mean, nobody wrote that for me. I'm kidding.
One day he's got one of his Lexuses over at the Fox parking lot when we were recording Futurama, and he got in it, you know, and you couldn't get it out. You couldn't get it
No
in
idea how to
gear or
work the
something.
goddamn thing. It was unbelievable.
And then I just said that, I went, the all-new Lexus. When you put it in park, it stays. I love you. You're inimitable.
Oh, yes. No.
But,
I'm inimitable.
But the freak thing, going back with the voices and that, is I took a detour. I didn't think much about voices because I could do them. I could sit in a closet for 6 months and entertain myself. Really, seriously, I was like a self-contained entertainment unit. I could sing. If I wanted to hear a joke, I'd say it. And if I wanted to hear characters, I'd do them because outside of that world, I was the one that got picked on. You know, it's like, look, I don't care particularly for sports, you know, and boy, they'd circle the wagons if they saw a sensitive young guy. You know, they'd circle the wagons. The Brutes was like, fresh meat. You know, and let's go make an example out of him. And I used to draw too. This is all part of this voiceover thing, art and music, and that business with drawing things. I used to draw comic strips of the kids in my school.
Really?
And I was always working away real quiet and everything, and there'd be this girl, and there'd be that guy, and this guy. And the bully comes by one day, and he goes, "You're not going to draw me, are you?" And I said, "Why would I? I mean, if I did, it's not to make fun of you. It's like, you're the coolest guy in the school. Everybody knows that." And next thing you know, he goes, "Good man." This guy protecting me, so he could be portrayed.
You made him your bitch. That's the most amazing thing.
I know,
I love
a
that.
stupid, weak little guy that can't swing a bat, you know.
Hey, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking that we're on this side, those people can't see us. So we've done this half of the panel on this side. Let's get up, go to the other table, have this thing block you folks, and then you guys can see us.
Come on. Battle puncher. Come on, Billy. Flag and toe. Hi, everybody. Shortest intermission ever. Right now.
I'd like
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go. And you guys can, come on in, move in. Let's just do. Let's have everybody. And if you can't see us, move in. Yes. Love your t-shirt.
So yeah, that was my story. Is I got in bands and played in bands, and I used to do voices on stage whenever we had disasters. If broke a string, an amp would blow up. I would start going up there and start doing voices and telling jokes. And we both were aware of this guy named George Jessel. Because when we were putting together voices for Futurama, they said, what are you going to do for this Zoidberg, audition? He was the Toastmaster General, the Roastmaster General, the Toastmaster General. But he was a marble mouth. And he used to tell jokes on stage like, "You know the definition of a smart ass? A fella that can sit in an ice cream cone and tell you what flavor it is." And then it was mixed with this guy named Jacoby. Remember the first Arthur? Where this guy leans into Arthur and goes, "What's it like to have all that money?"
It doesn't suck.
And so the two of them were melded together, and that's what I got, "Young lady, bring me a sandwich from the dumpster and leave the maggots on it." I'm struggling. And, that's how you...
Now, when you do I notice you do this, when you do the Zoidberg trill.
Because he has all that cool meat.
Exactly. Does that help the sound when you hold it up to your hand?
Not at all.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought that was like some...
Oh, no, I would have told you.
Trill.
I would have told you. But I used to think anybody could do that stuff, and that's why I sort of hid it like an appendix scar in school, because no one would give you props. And I said, why? I'm offering up this stuff, that I think is
They
great.
were in awe of you.
But
I think they were just standing in awe.
But they were also resentful. There was a lot of resent, and I just finally figured it out as an adult, is that you were a constant and painful reminder of what they will never, ever be able to do. And certain people had magic, the artists, the creative types.
Do you think it was more of a, I don't know, it's not a good way to put it. You forget it. Go.
That's okay.
No, I'm sorry.
No, but that's, if you wanted to know how I got in, I left music and I went to radio. Because if you're going to do voices, you got to be where they need voices. And there was a station in town called WBCN. It was an FM station. And I came over there and started screwing around. Next thing you know, I was like on there all the time. And it was like Maurice being the reader for, anything that was going to come over the PA, or if you needed to be heard, because that's what you did.
Well, yeah, that's when things started to turn, really, for me. I went from that, because I was a misfit kid, too. I was from the island of misfit toys. And then, I got to high school and started doing that morning announcement thing. It wasn't radio, but that's when I went from, like, the kid, the oddball, the hexagonal peg in an octagonal hole, to like people starting to accept me a little bit. It was like having a superpower. This is probably the closest thing is that.
It was a
superpower. Being able to
I just
manipulate
didn't realize
your voice.
No, but I drank and did drugs, and I didn't give a crap about the gift, I didn't even see it as that. I didn't care, And then when I sobered up, I realized, that's a blessing.
And by sobered up, you mean you have not touched a drop in how many years?
28, 27. I just remember how hot hell was. You know, that's all you got to remember is walking for 5 miles because you spent your last $3 on a piece of coke that fell, you know, out of somebody's nose. You know, that'll be $3.
There you go. All right.
Terrible, terrifying drug stuff.
Yeah. So,
we're okay.
What else? Yeah, that's absolutely true. And you know what? You never did. Thank God, you never smoked.
No, I never did.
See, that's I unfortunately was a smoker.
Were you?
I made the. You know, I was a smoker.
Cigars,
but I smoked cigars the way most people smoke cigarettes. I mean, I had like I'm always a box of cigars in my car. I was constantly. I mean, I looked like a Cheech and Chong movie with cigar smoke billowing out of my car. I had a Saab. I had a Saab 900 Turbo. You know, an older Saab 900. Back when the key was in the, in the floor, in the floor between the two seats. You'd reach down and put your key in there. And there was one day where I'd actually dropped so many cigar ashes down there, we couldn't get the key in because I'd actually pushed in so much cigar ash that we had to like re-key the car. So, not to mention what it's done to my voice, because you have, what I admire about you, among many things, I mean, your talent's awesome, you're a beautiful guy, but your range is so fantastic. I mean, you must have, what, a 5-octave range or something like that. You do high-end voices and bass voices, deep voices.
like dog whistles.
So I'm mid-range to down, but I don't have a high-end anymore. When I try to do a high-end, I end up sounding like the Jackie the Joke Man. Oh yeah! I could do that, but I'm really trying to be a real falsetto. I can't go higher than that.
But that's
I've got like a glass ceiling on my
that's
voice.
a bizarre voice. That's like 3 or 4 or 5 voices at once.
Yeah.
Hey! You know, that's what it is, and I use them for the ball of
You
light.
had the ball light on Futurama.
Futurama.
Yeah.
My phone, someday my phone will ring. They said, just do that. And I said, it's too crazy. And they said, no, we like it.
They wanted everything on Futurama. They loved everything you did.
Well, they loved everything you did. Kif Kroker was an amalgamation.
Oh, sir, really, you flatter me, but it's too late. I shaved your armpits too many times. Go back.
Kif, alert the men. I've made it with a woman. He's always mortifying. You know, Kif, have the boy pick up my underwear.
The boy, sir?
You pick up my underwear.
Yes, sir.
And Nixon, I don't sound like Nixon. I mean, I know exactly what Nixon sounds like, of course, but there was nothing
It sounds
funny.
like John Cusack in that movie about the butler.
Oh, well, oh yeah.
No.
But I didn't think of it like that, because I didn't care. It's got to be funny. I learned that on the Howard Stern show. He says, look, these Larry Kennys, over these other radio stations, they do dead-on impressions of people, and you know what? It ain't funny. So I don't mind you doing, like, running wild with a voice. Just
mind. You put the man away. When you were on, I remember one day listening to you doing Marge Shot. Howard couldn't carry on the show. You heard gasping. You heard, like, Howard couldn't talk. You just heard... So you just kept going.
But the idea was to be funny and to be irreverent, and if we did racial stuff, it was to point up the grotesqueness of racism.
Yeah, I mean, Marge Shot was never a character you wanted to be. Your Marge Shot was, it's just, you made racism sound like what it is, ignorance and stupidity.
Right.
And fear.
She sounded stupid and ignorant and almost innocent of it.
Yeah. Any other questions about voiceover? Now, wait a second, are we billing this as the voiceover panel, or is this like asking us stuff about Futurama and...
They call anything a panel now.
No, I know, but I mean, I know there's one that's supposed to be specifically about voiceover, and I don't know if this one's it or the one we're doing
What difference does it make?
I don't know.
What laws
I don't know. I'm a Canadian. I'm very much into rules. Yes, sir. You shot your hand up most enthusiastically. Go.
This is a question for both of you.
It's good because we're both here.
Are there any upcoming animated projects you're involved with that you can tell us?
Well, we did just do a little bit on the 7D, our Seven Dwarfs show. And the concept of the show is the Seven Dwarfs, 20 years before they met Snow White. So we don't have white hair, we're younger men.
and we're drawn very much in a Jay Ward cartoon style.
Like Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah, it's very much like it's very much line drawings, flat. We're departing from the Snow White look, the look of the original Snow White movie. And it's there's a little bit of snark to it. The characters are more extreme. It's much more verbal, and like I said, very much in that Animaniacs-y kind of.
But it's really funny.
To the audience way. It's really funny.
It's so easy to get jaded. You've read every kind of script in the world for announcing and for characters and everything, but a lot of times the jokes really aren't there. We were lucky. We were spoiled with Futurama.
Yeah, yeah. So you go on to other shows and you're like, all right, this is a paycheck.
Great.
Great. Let me do my best.
But Futurama had more layers than an onion.
Right.
It was gorgeous.
But this show is also, it's not. I wouldn't say it's gonna, it won't have the science of Futurama to it, but it's a funny show. And we went into it thinking, all right, we're doing a kids show, great. And the adults are gonna be able to watch this show with their kids and laugh their asses off. So, which is good for adults with big asses.
The other thing is, I did a crossover episode with The Simpsons.
I did too.
Yeah, you were.
I was in that episode as well.
I know.
Because I was in Futurama as well, my friend.
No, I mean, if you're asking like what's coming up.
Did you hear? Did anybody else hear this? I saw it on one person's post. Marsha Wallace, Mrs. Crabapple from The Simpsons, passing away. Did anybody else hear about this? Or am I?
No.
Okay. No, but I okay. Wait.
She might have.
Everybody, shut off your cameras. I'm not. I'm going to try this right because I saw somebody's Facebook post.
Hey, what's that picture?
I go with that.
Hey, what is that? I thought you were faithful to your girl.
There you go.
He lied to me.
I could be wrong. I'm not going to Google this. Billy.
Yes.
Talk about that Futurama crossover episode. You were in it much more than me.
I was in it. Well, it was Dan Castellaneta was in the room, and Julie Kavner. And they were just the most gracious people, you figure, oh, we're going to go in here and they all hate each other and everything. It was like, no, it was beautiful. It was so simple, the way they ran that show. And it's really going to be funny. I mean, as I saw it, it was like, the Simpsons are in their house and there's this clattering and junk noise in the basement, and it's Bender. So that's, take it from there, and it's super funny. I wish that we could do Futurama again, because, well, someone's got to pick it up, I mean, I always thought it was too good to not be on television, at least. And they have, like, 3 or 4 more seasons of ideas that they could do.
I'm not convinced that it's gone.
I'm not either.
Matt Groening wants very much to do it again, and when Matt Groening, who has probably enough money to bail out this city, wants to do another season of Futurama, guess what? Your city ain't getting bailed out. He's going to do another season of Futurama somehow.
Got to make that money back.
I'm very sad to report it is true. Marsha Wallace did pass away. Yeah, it's hitting Google right now. She was the voice of Mrs. Crabapple, and she was in that episode. That's going to be the season ender of this season, the crossover between Futurama and The Simpsons. So I'm very sad to report. She was a nice lady. I worked with her a couple times on The Simpsons. She was great.
Good night, funny lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always say that. It's like, good night, funny man, because these were people that made other people laugh. And
God, I mean, I loved her on the Bob Newhart show. Wasn't she just fantastic?
She was great. She was always great. And Julie Kavner, when they're doing their characters, like, I think we're a lot bigger and louder, but they're very subtle.
And you know what? I noticed something about Dan and Marsha. Not Marsha. Jesus, I just saw Marsha's on my brain now that she's passed. Dan and Julie. They look at each other. They're positioned they do a sort of a semicircular pattern in the Marge Simpson soundstage on the Fox lot. And so it's set up so that Dan and Julie can talk to each other. And they do. They come off page and really relate to one another as a husband and wife. I was very interested to see that. I did an episode this season where I played a sushi chef, and the scene was the 3 of us. So it was like I went to school because they've been doing this longer than me, and they've been playing those characters 25 years. So I felt like Mel Blanc maybe was with Jack Benny. I was actually playing with people who were better than me. And I learned a little bit more about you still create a relationship. Voice acting is acting. Just we're not worried about the hair lighting and makeup. But they definitely played their relationship to each other. They didn't just stay on the page and go, how should these words sound when they come out of my mouth? You know, they were like really playing to each other. And I saw a husband and wife who looked nothing like Marge and Homer talking to each other. It was great. It was great. So, anyway, another question. Let's get more questions in. We'll make shorter answers. John, you wanted to ask a question.
This one's for Billy.
Yes, sir.
Since we all know how unique of a show Ren and Stimpy was, what was your most interesting recording session of Ren and Stimpy?
Kind of like all of them.
By interesting, you mean painful.
No, I mean, it was painful. When I first started doing it, I was screaming at the top of my lungs every day. And I called my wife up at the time, and I said, I was like Alec Baldwin. You know, on the phone, I was like, V, listen, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, V. And I said, I don't understand. It's like, if I have to do this all the time, I'm going to have nothing to work with. And she said, you'll find some way. And you know what? There are the second and third places in the throat that are in reserve, like an auxiliary battery. And you will find a way to do it. It's like being a cockroach, you know, you got to survive. And overcome the fact that you just blew your voice out. There's a lot of ways to do it, and we found them out of desperation. You know, I'm always, you know, I'll tell you, it's like if you lose your voice and you can't skip a session, you've got to find some way to pull it off. You know. And
Yosemite Sam does that to me, but that's only one voice. You were screaming this too. I used to, you would come
and he might sound something like.
I hate rabbits. But I hate screaming more.
That's great.
Screws me up from Alexa's session.
That's great.
You and I, you were living out in New York, and we had just become friends. We met on a show called The New Adventures of Beanie and Cecil in 1987. It aired 4 episodes. That's it, and then it went to hell. John Cristofalusi
that's why.
was the executive producer, which was the director, rather. And it was the first writing job of Chuck Lorre, believe it or not. He wrote a couple episodes of The New Adventures of Beanie and Cecil.
Yeah.
Up to then, he'd been a musician. And Eddie Gorodetsky, who you know, I think they met on that show maybe and teamed up, maybe not.
I think they
But
might have.
you know, look at how that part. Speaking about 2 guys who just met randomly in the world of cartoons and are now running show business.
Oh, now my friend Eddie Gorodetsky.
Yeah.
You know, I always loved him. He knew more about being funny than anyone that I had run into. And this is the old days, like 32 years ago. We were in radio together, and we would just leave work and just disappear and go over to this guy's house to do cocaine. And we were playing hooky, and me and Eddie was sitting in the backyard hallucinating, you know, and I was saying, hey man, wonder what it's like to be the guy. The guy? And I was like, you know, the top of the heap. What, in show business? And I said, yeah. And here we are talking about it, and it's like, next thing you know, 32 years goes by in a blink of an eye.
Right.
And he's practically running show business. His name is on every sitcom that I see on an airplane.
All those Chuck Lorre shows. But I remember you and I met on that show. It died in four episodes. But we stayed in touch. But he was living in New York. But whenever he'd come out to do Ren and Stimpy, we'd make a date to go and have breakfast at this place called Hugo's. And it'd always be at the end of his thing, and he'd be like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do it." Yeah. And I was like, because hear what he talks like now, and I'd be going, man, I don't know, man. I'm envious that you're on this show, but now I'm like, I'm glad I dodged the bullet of being on that show, because they beat the crap out of you. I remember telling you the stories
but
about
it
how
doesn't
they
have to
direct
be
you.
like that.
I know.
You know, no one should be beaten.
I've hosted through this entire business. I know.
No, you've had to. I've learned at the hands of many masters.
You get beaten up too.
Every director is different. He had the style of it. It was like being a DI, like a drill instructor.
Right,
you know,
right.
It was like, and I was Private Gomer Pyle. You know, he'd be like, come in. It's like I'd be bleeding, laying on the floor, and I go, "Is that okay?" I said, "You're 95% there." And I'd have to rally to die at that point. And, you know, I did it. I took it. I don't care. You know, it's like, that's what they paid you for. I got all day.
Right.
If it takes into the night, I'll stay for you. You know, don't worry about it.
That's why you're where you are now.
Well, because we have journeyman mentality, immigrant mentality. In other words, like
I am an actual immigrant, so
our uncles and all those guys that worked no problem. 18 hours a day, you know, and if I turn down work or something, you can always hear them coming from heaven, you know, you had a chance to work for 18 hours a day, and you didn't take it? What are you, a dickhead? You know, and I always hear that, and it's like, we grew up with this fear, like if I don't do the right witty little cloying, annoying voice that day, they take away your house.
Right, because it's about the hours, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I have a friend, Lou Dinos, very funny comedian in Los Angeles, originally a Toronto guy. He said, I went to my boss at the diner and said, boss, I need a raise. You want a raise? Okay, 60 hours this week. That's your raise. You know, it's like we want to get more hours. You know.
Yeah.
We both come from that world of working for an hourly wage.
And we were also-
we step into this thing where if you walk in and go, Lexus, you know, boom, they send you a check. Or if you scream your lungs out, it doesn't matter. They still send you a check. It's just about getting it to where they want it. You know.
And since Hollywood is the last factory we have left, I mean, show business. I love saying it. It's a recession-proof business because time is always told.
And we're actually making stuff. You know.
It's our last factory, entertainment. And the thing is that it's recession-proof because it keeps employing, it keeps getting bigger. And I'll tell you why. You probably already know in some way that it was called bread and circus for years, like throughout all the depressions and all the worst times we've had, that in times of dire, you know, uncertainty and all of that, people want to be entertained more than anything. It's bread and circus, meaning you got to eat, you got to be entertained.
You got to laugh.
And I encourage everybody that has any kind of creativity to go investigate on how to work in some facet of that business. Look at all the animation, the computer stuff that opened up because of that. And people were actually, you know, saying, I can draw.
God, I've seen some talent just this morning. I've only been on my table for an hour, and people have come up with some amazing drawings. You guys are fantastic. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you want a life in the arts, you know, it's perseverance and persistence and being prepared, preparation.
And don't listen to the guy that's always like,
never.
no, it's all sewn.
That's for them.
That's one schmo's
When
opinion.
you were lying on it, when you were, you know, sitting there going, what's it like to be the guy? I think you, as I was at the similar times, I was thinking that there's this wall or this door with a guy there going, you can't come in. But it's really just another business, and it's another way of making a living. And if you get out of your head and take all those roadblocks out and just realize, I'm going to go there to help people.
But you had an addendum to that about the guy that's like at the audition, and you see him come out and look around. It's like, look at this arsehole. You know, he's so like high and mighty. He's picking and choosing who's going to survive.
No, he's not. He's hoping.
No, the guy is hoping that when he opens the door, come on in.
You're the one.
He's praying that you're the one. That it makes his job so, you know.
He gets to look good. He gets to stop looking. He gets to maybe go home early today. You know, so you know, go there to help them. Go take your talent, take what it is.
And if you
whether
have
it's
talent,
drawing, whether it's acting, whether it's writing, go there to help them make their project, to help people laugh, and don't worry about whether or not you get the job.
Also,
just so they help.
Also, you got to play it big. If you have talent, don't hide it. Don't feel like, you know, that because you're the only one around that is like that. Find your friends that have inclinations for all of it.
Hang out with people who are also, you know,
And
help each other.
don't forget that that you can't play it small. When you're on your way and you start thinking of yourself like, hey, I'm doing okay, you have to realize that you have to play it big. If you play it small, you do no service to the universe, nothing at all. But if you play it big, you can inspire other people.
Right.
And that's the thing that really gets me more than anything, is that there's people that come up. I've talked to thousands of kids and say, I want to be a voiceover. It's like when we started, it was like, voiceover?
6 guys were doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's it. Some announcers on TV.
Right.
This portion of our show is brought to you by Bluetooth. Now brain cancer comes in a new color. Blue. Bluetooth. And by Tang, the space drink. Now in orange and poon. You know, but we mimicked all of those big dumb announcers. That's what I used to call them, big dumb announcers. Yeah, it's 67 degrees out there in the bed. And that's what Zap was like, an amalgamation of all these big dumb announcers that I worked for. Isn't that funny?
Oh, him again.
Yeah.
Whenever Zap comes around, it brings up my inner kid. Do it. Do the Zap. I love it.
She's a beautiful ship, all right. I'm gonna fly her brains out. But it's all these big dumb disc jockeys I worked with, you know, and I
They love their every consonant.
Oh, they hate to give birth to a word. It's like, you know, the guy's sitting there musing on the air, and he's so afraid that he's going to fail if he doesn't fill the air with sound every second, so they're swinging with every pitch. And they make words last long, and they go, we got a guest coming in. How many minutes would that be? Yeah, he's you're going to love him, you know him. And then they go, all right, 7 a.m.
I didn't know 7 a.m. was a 17-syllable word. That's amazing.
Yeah, and I was starting to tell you the Nixon stories. In 1960, when John F. Kennedy and Richard M. Nixon were running for president, it was the first televised debate.
Right, they'd all been on radio at this point.
It would always be on radio, so now you could see who was going to be president of your country. And Kennedy looked like a male model, like GQ. You know, he had that perfect buttered toast hair and the ultra bright gleam smile. And Nixon looked like a sweat hog. He was sweating, his hair was matted, his beard is coming in, and I'm watching, I swear to God, I was watching the two of them, and every time they showed Nixon, they did close-ups of Nixon.
Right.
Kennedy said, keep the cameras back. So they close in on Nixon, and I go, Mom, I think he's going to turn into a werewolf. And so that's the only thing that I always remembered. I didn't care who did what, my fellow Hartman. You know, there's nothing funny about that, but to have him in a jar and the first thing he says is, you know, because that's the wolf thing in my head. Yeah. The werewolf.
Werewolf of Nixon. Werewolf of Washington.
And the headless Agnew.
That's the Frankenstein monster sound that Phil Hartman was so great at. When he went, yeah. I know.
Phil Hartman.
Phil was Phil Hartman was the very first message on my answering machine the morning my son was born. Phil called up, Mighty Mo, I hear you're a dad now. I was speaking to Nita, that's fantastic. I wish I'd saved the tape. Who knew that was going to happen?
Well, he called me once in New York. I was still living in New York, and I never thought that a Phil Hartman would even know who I was. I hadn't made any kind of big inroads. And I was getting ready to leave New York, and he calls up one day at the house, and I was coming home, and I asked my wife, hey, anybody call? I was working. And she said, yeah, strangest thing, Phil Hartman called here, and he was asking for you, and he wanted to have a conversation with you. And I said, honey, look, do you know how many guys I know that could pull off an elaborate joke like that on you? You know, Mo calls up and says, hey, it's Phil Hartman. and I knew millions of people that could do it. But it really was him, and I called him back, and he was on the set of news radio. And he was just saying, listen, you know what, if you ever come to Hollywood, please let me know. I'll help you get acclimated. Talk about generosity and security. You know, he says, all the work's out here for you. You got to come out here.
Yeah.
And he says, you know, I said, you know who I am? And he goes, yeah, of course. I said, well, I kind of know who you are, too, you know. I said, you left the spark plugs. You took the spark plugs out of that car when you left Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of sat there for a long time. But he was going to be Zapp Brannigan.
He was.
But what we did talk about in the very beginning is our love of those big, corny, dumb announcers. You know, that just like, okay? You know, just blockheads with big voices. Waddle-diddle-daddle. And the hydraulics don't work,
Grease.
Yeah.
I love Grease.
The Grease Man, yeah.
Yeah.
But
we're getting the red light here. We're getting to
red light.
Time to wrap it up.
Is there a red light district?
Well, not really. That's what you used to get at the Comedy Store. When I was my stand-up. There was a little red light that was over the picture of camp that went on. But you had 2 minutes to wrap up your act. So anyway,
it's a high-tech hook.
Exactly.
Get 'em on.
We've had a great time talking with you guys, and I hope we answered some of your questions. We got another panel coming up later on this afternoon, right?
Really? Another one?
I think there's a voiceover panel. Yeah, it's like fully voiceover.
Oh, we'll figure out something.
All right. We'll see you again.
Yeah, thank
By
you.
the way, is Shannon LaMarche's daughter in the room? Hi, I want to say hi to you personally. Okay, so we're sort of cousins somehow. We'll
My
figure it out.
family's showing up too.
Are they really?
Yeah, the
All right.
Giordano's, the Italian side of the family.
All right, okay. All right, guys, take care.
Thank you.